získáme informace od
We will get some information from experts from the Ministry of Agriculture, Mrs. Kateřina Bělinová and Mrs. Alena Kubů, who will tell us something about the condition of preparations of the strategic plan, the so-called Common Agricultural Policy for the years 2023 to 2027 in the Czech Republic. Good morning. Thank you for giving the floor. I will try to share my presentation with you now. Good morning once again to all, to the audience. My presentation should be about the preparation of the strategic plan of the Common Agricultural Policy for the next programming period in the Czech Republic. Preparation of strategy. For that, you have to have a stable legal basis. For the strategy to be implemented, you need to have a financial framework, and the various strategies should be prepared. On the slide, you see a summary of the legal foundations, the first step towards preparing a strategic document. For the next programming period, there are three basic acts. There is the regulation of the EU Parliament and Parliament. It's the financing of agriculture from two European funds, the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development and European Agricultural Guaranteeing Fund. And then there's some regulation on the funding of the Common European Policy and others, and the other one. The first preparation started in May 2018 in the Commissions. The first presentation of the basic act by the Commission took place in May 2018. Since May 2018, there has been a discussion in the working groups of the Council, and trialogues came later. And what we have now today is publishing of the officially approved, discussed strategy in the official journal. Publishing we expect by the end of May 2022. About the preparation of the financial base, in cooperation for three institutions is necessary. It's the EU Parliament, Council and the European Commission. The Commission is the one to present the regulation draft to working groups, member states, and then there is a dialogue with the European Parliament. And for the legal framework, two delaying factors have intervened. First was the election in the European Parliament, which delayed the discussion and the dialogue to a certain degree, and another one, which was quite more substantial, was the factor of COVID-19 infection, which has delayed also the discussing of the overall financial framework, which is another financial framework for that strategy. With regard to the legal framework is concerned, it's not constitutes just about the regulations, but also a set of operational regulations by the Commission and a set of other guides by the Commission, which specify, clarify some expressions, indicators, and possibly other detailed information as the view of the Commission of the strategic plan. The basic strategic framework for the Common European Agricultural Policy is complemented with the also transitional regulation. That's another European standard. For the Common European Policy, the information about the leader method. There are certain questions concerning financial tools common for all the European funds, and also some other information. With regard to the financial framework, I've mentioned the multi-annual financial network that has been approved for the period 2021 to 27 for all EU member states within the Circle 3, natural resources and the environment. A certain amount has been set, including also the common agricultural policy. Due to COVID, the multi-annual financial instrument has been reworked, and some additions have been made to combat the pandemic. And for the Czech Republic, or for the CAP, the multi-annual framework has been adjusted also with regard to the transitional period. The transition regulation of 2021, number 2220, has actually provided for the financial means from 2021-2022 in the existing programming period. So the programming period, where we have the strategic plan as a tool that's been shortened, and this budget for 2020 through to 2027. The regulation of the support to strategic plans that explicitly provides for budgets for the different funds and individual EU member states. For the Czech Republic, the support for the direct payments, that is European Agricultural Guarantee Fund, is 3.5 billion euro for the 5-year planning period. From this amount, according to the needs of the EU member states, a transfer is possible to some intervention, sector intervention. Czech Republic uses about 1% of transfer to the sector of egg layers, live plants and flowers and potatoes. It's possible to make it transfer up to 25% to the second pillar, but so for the time being the Czech Republic proposes a 2.5% transfer tied to the improvement of agriculture. In the framework of the first pillar, the explicitly provided budget for the beemaking and wine and beekeeping sectors, and it's about 25 million euros for the beekeeping sector. Support from the European Guarantee Fund is lower than it was during the past programming period, but in percentage-wise it's not lower than the Agriculture Fund for the Rural Development. For the Czech Republic, it means almost a 30% reduction of the basis. The basis for the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development is 1.3 billion euros, but you must include mandatory co-financing from the state budgets. Financing from the state budget, basically in the program of rural development, represents 35% now of the program. The project measures about 50% from Czech sources. For flat measures, environmental measures, it's about 25% from Czech sources. Now the approved relationship of co-financing from Czech sources is 65%, and it is calculated so that basically we correspond with our public means to the existing period in order to be able to fulfill all the needs of which are ever increasing in the environment, but also support the necessary investment measures focused on modernization, on technology and science. Financial measures and those for the support of strategic plans enable certain limitations and targeting and so-called ring-fencing. It is 5% of the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, which at least must be spent on the method for local community development. At least 35% of the common agricultural policy must be objects 3.6. It's primal natural resources and biodiversity. Some other delimitations of the minimum percentage from the European Guarantee Fund, Agricultural Guarantee Fund, for the existing period, and 3% from the budget must be targeted to renewal, generation renewal. There is farmers, that's about 130 million euros for the whole period. So it means that these are the basic financial conditions we must abide by in designing our financial plan, because the division of funds must correspond to the stated need, to the provided needs. With regard to the strategic framework in which a new strategic plan of the common European policy falls within. So when we see the situation in the existing period, then even now the support to agriculture is not self-standing. It's complemented with some other types of support from the European Fund Program of Rural Development, is related to the financial program from the European policy. Direct payments and interventions now are beyond the so-called partnership agreement, which is an umbrella strategic document. With regard to the new programming period, there's still the partnership agreement as the strategic document for the EU member states. Nevertheless, the strategic plan of the common European policy is not included here. It only relates to the policy of community-led local development, and also the agreed conditions are effective for financial tools. The strategic plan includes now not only measures of rural development, but also measures of direct payment and support or promotion interventions. The strategic plan is a basic tool for application of the goals of the CAP in the Czech Republic. In addition to the three basic aims of the CAP, it defines 9 strategic objectives which correspond to the 3 general objectives. Is providing for the income of farmers, increasing competitiveness, improving the position of farmers in the value chain, activity connected with climate change, protection of the environment, protection of landscape and biodiversity, support of generational renewal, support of employment and rural development or local development, and protection of food qualities and animal health. There is a cross-sectional 10th goal aimed at modernization of branches by supporting and sharing of knowledge, innovation and digitalization. When we compare the strategic aims with the existing programming period, we can see difference only in adding the first goal, that is the providing for income of farmers, thanks to the fact that the new addition of direct payments to the CAP, and there is the providing for the value chain. Also, this is added strategic plan intervention, and what is gaining importance is also food stuff quality. With regard to the very structure of this strategic plan, for the strategic plan to come to existence, you have to make the so-called SWOT analysis. The ministry, in cooperation with the branch research institutes and partners, has been preparing since 2017 analyses according to the 9 basic objectives, so that we can define needs for the analysis. On the basis of needs, also interventions have been defined to reflect best the proposed needs. The strategic plan, therefore, consists in strategic chapter, contains detailed analysis of definitions of the SWOT analysis according to the 9 objectives, also the chosen intervention and the output indicators, so we quantified what we want to achieve within the strategy. The content of the different interventions can be found in Chapter 5. These are interventions in the form of direct payments, divided into 3 basic groups. Interventions in the form of direct payments, be it interventions separated from or tied to production. Sectoral interventions, in our case, it is the sector of wines, beekeeping, and the mentioned are the egg layers, porks, etc., and all those of development of rural development, actually. And this is specified in details. It's according to types of intervention, is up to the EU member states what kind of interventions, basic circles that particular country chooses. Nevertheless, it is apparent that it follows up to the existing interventions clearly that have been implemented for rural development in the program of rural development. On the right-hand slide, you can see a list of all those types of interventions. There is obligations in the field of the environment, subsidies to areas, natural areas or others, investments with regard to agricultural enterprises, food-making enterprises, or forest economy, opening of the activities of young farmers, support of knowledge and exchange of information, also a mitigation of risks. But the EU member state can, on the basis of the definition of the needs of priorities, can choose measures that will be within the practical plan and will be complemented from national sources, to be funded from from European sources. What the Commission evaluates in the framework of the strategic plan is how the objectives are set, whether they are ambitious enough, whether the financial plans correspond to the ambitions, goals, and results. And the practical plan must also include a description of the coordinating structure, governance, and coordination structure. This is also subject of specification and the description of elements to ensure the agricultural policy. Great emphasis is laid on transfer of sharing of knowledge, system of counseling, digitalization. The strategic plans, before it is actually submitted to the Commission, must pass the so-called ex-ante evaluation, and it is then explored whether the analysis has been correct, whether the situation is in the 9 strategic goals, whether the needs or priorities are defined, whether the priorities of solutions are chosen properly, and also evaluation of the impact of the environment, SIA, takes place, and that is in the last phase of the process. For the strategic phase to be readable, the SWOT analysis is mentioned only in a short form, but nevertheless the detailed analysis, and in our case there are several hundreds of pages of analysis of the individual objectives, are enclosed as an appendix and separate parts of the strategic plans, information about how the strategic plan has been consulted with partners. In the case of the Czech Republic, so far there have been more than 25 working group meetings where step-by-step consultations have been made of the strategic plan with regard to analysis, outcome of analysis, definition of the needs, and we try also that a feedback is taken into account and the strategic plan be interactively reflected to the funds in our cooperation with partners. Another actual appendix is the internal financing within the strategic plan for the Czech Republic. Relevant is the appendix of support. If I'm to compare the existing period, because the program of rural development will be in effect by the year 2025, and the payments will be evaluated in 2026, when in ideal case the strategic plan must be in full operation. So it is the inclusion of direct payments and sectoral interventions is a kind of a challenge, because we interconnect interventions in direct payments and the rural development, and they act as a synergy in the framework of the different strategic goals, and it's a new thing for us and for the commissions as well, so we can evaluate properly how the two pillars co-act in the different spheres. Next important point, in contrast to the existing period, is the ever-increasing ambition in the environmental sphere, which can be seen in adjusted conditions of agricultural, environmental conditions, and at the same time introduction of a new element, which are these schemes, the schemes in the first pillar. The strategic plan should also express distinctly contribution to the new strategic framework, the new Green Deal. There is the farm to fork strategy and biodiversity strategy. More intensive support goes not only to young farmers, but also intensive support is devoted to the rural areas as such. We can make a conclusion from this that the whole strategic plans should be more ambitious, but unfortunately, as we see in the introductory slide, the financial sources are lower than the existing ones for the existing period. This is also a great challenge of how to cope with the increased budgets and increased requirements by the Commission, especially with regard to the environment. But it's also an important challenge for us in preparation of the new strategic plan is the pending legal framework. It was obvious from the first slide that by the end of this year we will have the basic regulation. Nevertheless, the second legislation will be approved by the end of this year, but its next part will be discussed only by the beginning of the next year. So it is a great task to prepare the strategic plan without the knowledge of detailed conditions. This is a challenge, especially to the managing authority of the payments, or payment authority, and with regard to administrative burden, it can be reflected also to specific farmers. It's the requirement for more detailed descriptions. The whole common European policy is also under the slogan that it must be more effective, better. It means for the managing authorities, the showing on a yearly basis of how and what kind of results and outputs we have achieved. Because if you don't achieve the planned outputs, the Commission can, in the worst case, can even resort to sanctions, to imposing sanctions. This is the draft of the architecture, which is also quite the obvious element, which combines two levels, which transfers in new conditions, and above that framework there are actually topics, the first pillar, which are complemented with the climate and environmental nature. I have mentioned that the preparation of the strategic plan started in as early as 2018 by presenting the first designs of drafts of legal regulations, and it was discussed at the European level, at national level, preparing SWOT analysis, definition of the needs, proposed intervention, and the discussion of the legal regulations and consultations at the national level were held in 2019 and 2020, where, as mentioned, delays in the implementation of the planning range is great. So the transitional period must be prepared, therefore the new regulations. At the same time, it is clear that the whole preparation of the strategic plan will be postponed. And the government informed about the further steps to be taken and preparations at national level, especially with regard to exchange of information, because preparing of the administrative system, control system, and law, legal amendments were quite demanding. This year, 2021, we submit finalization of the basic acts and discuss the operational regulations, especially those concerning the content of strategic plans and details of the strategic plan. And we hope that it will be approved by the end of this year. And as I've mentioned already, the next part of the second legislation will be in the regulation of the EU Commission, like annual reports for evaluation plans. There's great detail, and so suppose that it will be subject to discussion during the first quarter of the next year. What is in store for us as the most important date or deadline or milestone? It does not mean that it means that December would be the last step here. Is the submitting the strategic by the first to European Commission, the regulation of the strategic plan, the first date, 1st January of 2022 for the EU member states. All of us will try to abide by this deadline and the strategic plan, to present to the consolidated strategic plan to the Commission. Then we will have official consultations with the EU, and the Commission should express its official comments within 3 months. And if we are able to respond to that, which is done in practice, that in such a form that there are technical meetings and consultations, after which there is so-called stop time, and then we can envisage that the strategic plan will be approved by the Commission sometime during the 3rd quarter of the next year. Theoretically, the Commission is obliged to approve the strategic plan within 6 months after presentation. Nevertheless, we have that stop factor when the EU member state has a number to respond to the Commission's comments. It doesn't mean that the Commission will see our strategic plan for the first time on the 1st of July next year. We have been conducting many unofficial negotiations with the Commission since the very outset, and this about individual commissions and analyses. The last feedback from the Commission were received by us on the October version of strategic plan. It's quite a great number of comments which we'll try to include even in the official version. With regard to approval of the strategic plan, the Czech Republic, unfortunately, also due to quite strict deadlines in the field of environmental impacts, in a situation that we present a strategic plan to the Commission which has not been approved by the government. Now the government has just taken note of it and is approved the amount of national co-funding. Nevertheless, each and every strategic document can be approved only after being given the final opinion of the Ministry for the Environment about the environmental impacts. And then we will have that opinion or decision by spring next year at the earliest. But we suppose that our government will approve the strategic plan and the version on the basis of comments received from the Commission. And basically, by mid-December, we expect also the last phase of evaluation from the preliminary evaluator that should actually examine our ambitions with regard to results, outputs, and proper distribution of the financial funds. With regard to our meetings with partners, I've said that we have had 26 working meetings, and we suppose that working groups will also meet about information about the course of negotiations with the EU commissions and the final phases of work designing our document. The year 2022 will bring mainly discussion, and we firmly believe that also approval of the strategic plan by the commissions at the national level. It means finalizing and administrative part, completion of new acts, new operational plans, decrees by the government on rules, setting the system of verifications by the state investment fund as such. And we hope that in 2023 we will be able to start implementing the strategic plan. It's quite difficult at this time horizon to conclude all the steps in preparation to strategic plan. I have not focused in detail on the individual elements of the strategic plan, even where you can find the basic information. Are the web is the website of the Ministry of Agriculture, where we try to publish gradually the different stages and the consolidated strategic plans. Last one October this year, and it will be also a version which will be official submitted to the Commission. All the strategic documents are there from the EU and the basic information and motivation papers. So this is all I wanted to say, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for very interesting, detailed presentation. I would probably like to comment. Mrs. Bělinová is an expert, but at the Ministry of Agriculture, she works as an officer clerk, so she tries to handle issues based on a specific task, and it is derived from trialogue, which means European Commission, European Parliament, and European Council meetings, and the results are satisfactory for somebody or even enthusiastic. They did not manage to agree the worst what agriculture and farmers could fear. On the other hand, there was a big disagreement and dissatisfaction by the Green Party fraction because the plan seemed to be not sufficiently ambitious from the view of restricting agriculture, and funds for agriculture should have been transferred, according to their idea, to the environmental protection. And in addition to that, they are really unhappy. Not only they, but also the socialist fraction that fears increasing the influence of individual member states. They say renationalization, and they didn't want individual member states to participate on the preparation of agricultural plan for the upcoming years. But they wanted to maintain the crucial decision-making power, including the ambitious plan of the European Parliament. So Mrs. Bělinová had already explained that the funds for agriculture are cut, nevertheless still represent one of the largest expenditure of the European Union, which is a tradition lasting from the World War II. In fact, when the procedure of the European Union was established, at the same time they predict a drop of production, drop of income of farmers, increased price of foodstuff and so on. So in this respect, the European Commission will control individual strategic plans, whether they are sufficiently ambitious, especially in the area of environment, whether they are in line with the plan. So that's about the strategic plans and their context. So they are created to the displeasure of a lot of members of the parliament aimed at restricting powers of individual member states. At the same time, it needs to be taken in consideration that agriculture in individual member states is truly diverse. And at the end, all member states should achieve identical results. So we assume that strategic terms would determine pace and direction leading to restrictions of, for instance, greenhouse gases.
how the strategic plan will be reflected to the economy on small and medium-sized agricultural farms. Can you give us a brief answer, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. We, in our discussion of the strategic plan, organize meetings of working groups and make available all the calculations of impacts of the options. And so such documents are available, and so I would like to author of the question to get in touch with me by phone or by email. I hope that also the relevant documents are available also on the ministry's website. Will the strategic plan have influence on food self-sufficiency? Thank you. I believe that it will have a similar influence as the whole setting of the agricultural policy, not only the very strategic plan, which of course in its setting takes maximum into account the preserving of food self-sufficiency in the Czech Republic. Thank you.